So welcome everybody. I think it's a good idea that we do it in English because we have participants from different countries, so that would be better for the audience. So what I suggest is first we kick off with Mark de Buizer, who will give a short introduction on ProData. Then myself, Steve Mann, and I will give you a short introduction about Awingu, but the most important speaker of today is, of course, Kurt Gielen, who is the IT manager from ZOL, the hospital in Limburg in Genk, who will explain everything what he has been doing together with Awingu in the hospital. So I suggest we kick off. Mark, I give the floor to you, and then just let me know when I have to skip to the next slide.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time to join us. I'm especially honored to have been able to organize this together with Awingu. And especially I would like to thank Mr. Gielen from the hospital at Limburg East to be willing to join us today to talk about his experiences with Awingu, and which will give you the opportunity to ask all the questions you might have. My name is Mark de Buizer. I'm the sales manager at ProData Systems, responsible for everything concerning healthcare. And I will give you a very short introduction on who is ProData Systems for those of you who don't know us. But I will keep it especially short because I would like to give maximum time or floor time to Mr. Gielen, because I think that's the most important part of the presentation today. Next, please, Steve. So who is ProData Systems? We have been on the Belgian market for almost 40 years now. We are an IT integrator. The part that sets us apart from other of our competitors, or what is especially appreciative by our customers, is that we are in a very proximate engagement with our customers. What I mean by that is that we have all the local solutions in place. So we have our local service desk, we have our local NOC. We still handle our customers in their own language, whether it be Dutch, English, or French, and we are very close to our customers. That's something that they really appreciate, that we haven't given in to offshoring of all sorts of service providers or services. We have 24/7 managed service solutions on all our line of businesses to be offered in the Belgian market. And especially, we are also focused on the Belgian healthcare. For the Belgian healthcare is for ProData Systems a very key vertical, as you will see in the next slide, Steve. This slide will show you what our main line of businesses are. So typically we have 3 big line of businesses, everything concerning the network solutions of the customer, the security solutions at the customer, or the data center infrastructure solutions at the customers. All those combined what we call digital transformation. And in terms of digital transformation, we have specific solutions developed for the healthcare sector, specifically everything concerning the digitalization of the surgery rooms. I think we are the market leader in Belgium on that part. It's our own development that has been in production now for almost 10 years, and we have around 150 surgery rooms or operating rooms active in the Belgian hospitals with our solution. Yes, Steve, next please. So here you will see some of the hospitals that are customer in one way or the other at ProData Systems. Several of these hospitals have digitalized their operating rooms with our solution. Others are customers of ours for network and security. Others are customers from ProData Systems on the data center infrastructure part. For Awingu, for example, the Hospital of Lokeren, the Hospital of Dendermonde, AZ in Blasius, and for instance, AZ Rivierland are all customers of ProData Systems with the Awingu solution. So now I would like to give the word or the floor to Steve, who will give a short word of introduction, I think, about Awingu itself.
Yes, Thank you, Mark, for the introduction, and thanks for inviting us in the webinar, and thanks for opening the doors to the different hospitals that we have as a customer. I have a couple of slides, so not too much, because I really want to give the floor as fast as possible to Kurt. We have been working quite close with Kurt in the hospital of Zuidoost-Limburg to roll out the Awingu solution, and that's the most important thing of this presentation. So first of all, we are a Belgian company. We bring, in fact, a workspace to any device anywhere. A Belgian company with a headquarter in Ghent, in the Garamco Arena. We have an office in New York. We have some strategic partnerships worldwide with Microsoft and Google, as you can see. And we are celebrating as a company our anniversary. Considered to be a scale-up, no longer a startup, but we are already active today in more than 25 countries. We have customers running with the Awingu solution from, let's say, Australia to Brazil and back. So we are working on an international scale. We have been rewarded by Gartner in 2017 as a cool vendor. That's a recognition you only get once in your lifetime. So an important one for us specifically, when you look on a worldwide level, this gives us a lot of international recognition. One slide about the solution. So we are bringing a workspace in a very secure way that allows employees or people you would like to give access to your backend to access applications and files. And they can do that in a browser, and it's a very secure solution because we only bring an encrypted image of the applications and the files that are running in the backend towards the browser. And we are not only bringing SaaS applications, but also legacy web. We also have customers that have chosen to bring a full desktop in the browser, which is, of course, also possible. Next to the applications, you also have the possibility to give access to your file servers, and everything can be done on the device of the user. We have a lot of companies / hospitals that use our technology to give access, for example, to external contractors with their own device, and then they have multi-factor authentication included in the solution, and they can access then a specific application or files. We also offer as a feature, for example, session recording, printing locally, if you allow the user to print, for example. And as said, it can be done in the browser, so the only thing the user needs is a browser and connectivity, so there is no need to install any software anymore on the device of the user. A couple of reference customers, you see that we are quite a horizontal solution because we bring, in fact, and specifically in these COVID times, the possibility that people can work from home on a company device or bring their own device. So, but since we started, we have been specializing in some verticals such as the public sector, finance, and also you can see there the healthcare sector, specifically what we are talking about today. We are offering our solution in different hospitals, not only in Belgium, but also in other countries. And that specific use case we are going to highlight now with the testimonial of Kurt Gielen, who is the IT manager of ZOL, the hospital in Genk, Oost-Limburg. So you can see we have some bigger, some smaller customers. It's not that we are only focusing on corporate companies. It goes from SMB until very big corporations. So that is where we are focusing together with partners such as Product. Okay, this was for me last slide, so I would like to give the floor to Kurt. First of all, Kurt, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a very busy agenda, but it's really much appreciated to explain to colleagues, because there are a lot of colleagues of you in the call that would like to understand better how you have implemented Awingu in the hospital in Oost-Limburg. So Kurt, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Maybe a short introduction as to what the hospital in Genk is all about. Next slide, please. So, well, I'm Kurt. As Steve already mentioned, the IT manager at the ZOL hospital in Genk. My main focus, my main background is in IT infrastructure. I've always had a background in networking, data center, security, and operating systems. I've been mainly active in healthcare since the beginning of the year 2000. First in the military capacity, in a military hospital in Brussels, and then I moved on to the hospital in Hasselt, and then a couple of years ago I did a detour at the hospital in Genk. So at some stage in my career, I had some intermediate excursions in other domains. I've been active in the corporate IT department of Belgian Defense, and I've been active as a DevOps team lead at DNS Belgium. That's the .be, .brussels, .vlaanderen domain registry, who manages all the DNS registrations in Belgium. Next slide. So a little bit about the ZOL hospital, what you see here is a photograph of the main campus in Genk. You see it's surrounded by woodland, so it's a very nice campus. It's a Sint-Jan campus. It's the main campus with some 600 700 beds. Next slide. But we also have other campuses. In total, we have 4 campuses now since the merger beginning this year with the hospital in Maaseik. We have about 4,000, a little bit more co-workers, a little bit more than 400 doctors, 1,024 beds on 4 campuses. The main campus in Genk, and then we have a large campus in Laanaken as well. The campus in Maaseik, and then an ambulatory campus in Waterschei. You know, the hospital and its past, it's very closely linked to the mining history of the Limburg region, and it still shows in different aspects of our daily workings. The hospital itself is managed by 7 divisions. So we have internal structure, 7 divisions, 7 departments who effectively manage the hospital as a whole. I'll go into much detail today. Next slide. As to geographic location, you can see the hospital Northoost Limburg. So we occupy together with the hospital in Overpelt. We constitute the Northoost Limburg hospital network. So two hospitals within one hospital network for the northeastern part of Limburg. All right. So what is ICT? What does the ICT look like in general in the hospital of ZOL? So we are constituted of we have the IT manager, of course, and then we have a PMO department which handles everything concerned project management. We have project and program managers who decide on priorities, who constitute the project portfolio, and who feed 2 engineering teams. And we have 2 multidisciplinary engineering teams who work side by side in a sort of rotation way of working, where one team does the project work and another team focuses on service delivery, and they rotate each 2 weeks. So you can have focus on the project work. You're not being disturbed by calls, incidents, and so forth. And you also get confronted with the eat your own dog food principle. So you do the project work, but once you're in service delivery mode, you also have to support your own work and have to support the quality of your own services. Each engineering team is led by a technical architect and a service delivery manager. So we can really focus on quality of the services developed and quality of the services delivered to the end user. All right. Now on to Awingu. What was life before Awingu? We started the Awingu product within the ZOL hospital a couple of years ago. And before Awingu, we had, let's say, a very difficult use case, a very difficult way of managing external access. We had a multitude of external workers, co-workers. We have 3,000, now even more than 4,000 employees. We had doctors, suppliers, patients. and a multitude of external access technologies in use at the time. Right now I'm talking about the year 2017, beginning 2018. We had SSL VPN access, we had Microsoft Direct Access, Seamless VPN, with IPsec VPN for certain suppliers who demanded direct network access to the hospital systems. Then we had a double Citrix farm, Citrix 2 farms, an older farm with legacy applications and a newer farm, and now it's already dated, I know, but at that time it was the newer farm, the 7.x series XNOP with the newer hospital applications. And then we had some vendor-specific support solutions, which you all know, the team viewers, the log me in of the world. So you see a multitude of access technologies with very high risks, very high risk as concerned to security, very difficult to manage, very error-prone, very unstable, and which caused a lot of calls to the service desk to manage it all. So then we decided that we need really something we need something secure but very easy to manage with as less as dependencies as possible. Why is that? At the time, the end of 2017, we decided we went to implement a campus-wide, maybe even a hospital-wide EMR, so the medical record system. At the time, it was chosen that we went for the ChipSoft solution, the ChipSoft X solution, and was deployed in the ZOL hospital over at that time 3 campuses. You know, you have to provide external access to the EMR, to the doctors, to nurses, to external practices, and so forth. And with the Citrix installation that we had at the time, we had a lot of trouble of managing it, of providing the stable connection to the application, and to provide some additional features. And one of the most difficult things to maintain or to provide was the printing aspect of everything, and to maintain the different clients that were being used by the external users who were not always up to date, with difficulties connecting because of aging SSL libraries and so forth. And that's something we really wanted to get out of the system. Next slide, please. And that's why we chose for Awingu. And the challenges that we were confronted with is there was no uniformity in access, no consistent access control, no consistent auditing, very important, of remote access, who has been doing what at what time, no consistent multi-factor policy, different technologies to support and maintain, client dependencies, external client dependencies on devices that you do not manage, so it's very difficult to maintain. So it's a tough job to keeping those agents up to date, a great number of help desk calls and a lot of printing issues. So these are the challenges that we were confronted with that we wanted to get away from. Okay, next. So the objectives that we had was to simplify and reduce the number of technologies used, to further tighten security, and to clearly align policies depending on the user profile. So the thing that we were aiming at was to narrow down the number of technologies used, and to have a very specific policy on which and what technology to use for which profile of users. So maybe next slide. So we ended up with this, that as we go from the left to the right, we have a user access portal for each and every user, which they use to get access to their mail and to the internal intranet. Then we have an auto VPN solution, and it's the second one in a row that we use on our managed devices, so that automatically connects to the hospital network, two-factor way, username, password, and certificates, but only on managed devices. And then the big part, the big chunk that we are talking about today is in the middle, the application gateway, which used to be a Citrix solution, but that we have replaced end of 2017 with the Awingu solution. And I'm going into details on how we did that and what the technicalities are all about. And then we further marginalized the SSL VPN, which we still use, but it's very low usage and on demand only for very specific use cases, as well as the IPsec VPN. It's almost gone, except for support for some very big parties, which we have very specific support agreements with to support these technologies. But those two on the right, these are less than 1% of the external access. So and that's really one of the main focal points, was to get away from the network access level access technologies. Okay, next one. So what are the actual results that we achieved by implementing the Awingu? Is a fast reduction of SSL IPsec use by suppliers. So we got nearly rid of them, except for some really specific use cases and some exceptions. By default, our default supplier access has been redirected via the new Awingu portal, in which we offer the supplier a minimum set of applications, multi-factor authentication, an application firewall which controls minimum sufficient access rights, and on which we have auditing enabled, which means that each and every time an external supplier logs in via the Awingu portal, its complete session is recorded and is being safeguarded for future inspection or future use, which we already had to use one time in case of a cybersecurity incident. But that's another story. And then we have our internal users, and the Citrix users have been completely migrated. It's no more Citrix at ZOL. And the power users and the users, let's say, who have a ZOL dedicated device, a ZOL laptop or a ZOL tablet, they are using AutoVPN as a way to connect to the ZOL hospital. All right, next one. The real life results were that we have a fast reduction in service desk calls for remote support. It's the Awingu platform. It's HTML5 web-based platform, very easy to use, no client dependencies to maintain, a very easy print solution, a native built-in print solution that does not depend on drivers to be maintained on the backend side, whereas that is the case in case of Citrix. Very easy support, because you have when you have to give some support, it's very easy because you have features like session sharing and session management, which allow you to pick up sessions and to control and to share sessions in an Awingu environment. You have vast audit trails available, very good logging and session recording for external access users. Very clear internal policies on how to provide the external services. It's very easily documented and very easy to use. And the application provisioning and usage reporting is all through an API. Awingu offers a REST API to do nearly everything on the management side. So to publish applications, to publish desktops, to do nearly everything, to query the logs, there is a REST API which you can use via in any scripting language. I use a lot of PowerShell to do it, which we can use to automate the whole thing, and that's a very powerful construct. So since inception, since 2017, since we deployed the platform, really we had no real human intervention to manage it all. So it's all been done via scripts and automation. Okay, next slide. Another very interesting thing with the Awingu platform is the lack of complexity for the setup. This is the actual setup that we use in ZOL, and it looks complicated, but it's not, because when you look at the Awingu part, I'm going to from top down. You have these two boxes. These are NetScaler load balancers. It's just to provide access to the Awingu platform. These are really not necessary, but because we want to provide high availability, we do use them, but the first layer is not actually required. The second layer, which is the Awingu platform, we use a 3-node solution. But as I understand, you can already go and use Awingu using one single node. But then again, you have no high availability, and that's something that we really wanted. We wanted high availability, and then you go to a 3-node solution. We also opted to externalize the databases, which is not mandatory, and we also opted to externalize all the audit trails and audit logging, the screen recordings that we write to a file share. And then we have on the lower part of the design, we have an RDS deployment. It's a standard run-of-the-mill RDS deployment with 2 RDS brokers for high availability reasons and a number of session hosts. And the number of session hosts, it's something that you choose in function of the load that you expect, and which you can grow or shrink in accordingly. So that's something that is really dependent on the size of the installation. If you look at that, it might seem complicated, but if you look at the minimum installation that is really required to get things up and running, you only need 1 Awingu appliance and 1 session host server, and then you can also already start with the whole thing and start publishing applications. We did a quite extensive setup to provide high availability, load balancing, and to provide the vast load of the users that we have. And sometimes we have more than 100, 200 users active at the same time. So we need to provide some additional capacity to accommodate for that. Okay, next slide. Another thing, we initially set up the Awingu on the internal on-campus on-prem installation, but we quickly evolved to a new use case to use Awingu, and that's for recovery, disaster recovery purposes. So we actually replicated the design that you saw earlier on the previous slide. We replicated that design in a slimmed down version, and we put it live on Azure. So in our Azure tenant, we replicated the Awingu setup via an alternative portal site, and we provide access to replicated databases in our Azure DRS site. So what we actually do is to replicate the most important data of the hospital to an off-site database in Azure, and we provide a parallel Awingu circuit, an Awingu portal application gateway to access that data. So we always have access to the data, even if, let's say, a bomb drops or a plane crashes on the hospital, and all data centers, so we have 5 data centers, all data centers are impacted. We still have access to the most recent data as to where the replication stops, of course, via the offshore, via the DRS site that we have built. So it's totally independent from on-site systems. It's hosted in public cloud providers. In our case, Azure, but it could as well have been Amazon or any cloud provider. It's completely integrated in the ZOL emergency plans, and it's regularly practiced. To access the data, you only need a 4G or commercial internet connection. Yeah, you go to the portal, the disaster portal, and then you have the action or the accessibility to data readily available. And the only prerequisite is the internet connectivity. We use a feature called the floating licenses feature that Awingu offers to duplicate your setup, so we don't pay additional licenses to have this DRS solution in place. Because in normal usage, it is not used. That's the deal that we made. We have the active portal on site, which is used in normal times, and then we have a standby portal, which is used when everything goes awry on the on-prem installation. And this installation will be further expanded in the future with additional applications. We have, for the moment, we have complete replicated data sets for our documentation system, or EMR, or patient data, the pharmacy data. But you could imagine to have everything that is in the database could be replicated. You can build a solution following these constraints. Yes, next please. So this is a high-level overview of this design. On the left side, you have the ZOL hospital with its always-on SQL databases, which are being replicated to an instance in the cloud, and through which we provide access to via a parallel Awingu appliance setup in the cloud. That's completely separated from our on-prem installation. All right, next. Do we have solved every possible problem that we could encounter? No, of course not. There's still some remaining issues that we need to tackle. one of the big problems that hospitals in general encounter, and it's not really an Awingu specific topic. It's the account management for external parties, the supplier account management and multi-factor authentication. Because we as a hospital or we as an entity, we do not. It's very difficult to do the account management or the account lifecycle management of external parties and external contractors. So the account management is a difficult one. What we do is we use the two-factor authentication, the TOTP keys, together with a strong username password, and we use the on-demand only activation of the accounts, which of course requires that you have a 24/7 presence required to activate accounts whenever really needed. So you have to be organized for that. Then another thing is another issue that's still remaining and still a topic for debate sometimes. It's supplier standardization. As I told you, we nearly standardized external access for 99% of our suppliers, but still there are suppliers who are adamant that we standardize on their technology and not the other way around. So they come with custom built solutions, custom built team viewer solutions. You cannot imagine what one encounters during the day. But I've seen every possible solution which they want to implement to better service their products on our premise, and it's a very difficult one, and it's something I'm really keen to not get into, because it's not manageable. I understand from their point of view they want to standardize as well, but at the end of the day we have to keep our doors locked and provide internal access, and at the end of the day it's the hospital who pays the invoices. So I think when push comes to shove, it's the hospital who decides on what standard to standardize. And then another thing, and that's maybe a suggestion towards development, the topic of session host segmentation, network segmentation, still remains a topic, because one might gain access to via an application gateway to an application, but the environment in which the application is run has to be logically separated as well from the rest of the internals, and that's not very easy to accomplish in practice. So that's something that really has to be. Suppose that your session host on which the applications effectively run gets compromised. Those session hosts usually have access to internal systems, and then one should consider the mitigation policies that you put in place just to keep security tight and neat. But that's a generic problem. That's a problem that's present in every data center, I guess. But it's very hard to solve when you have a lot of interdependencies to maintain. So that's a lesson for the future. Okay, next one. So I think I've given a general overview of our journey with Awingu. We've been very satisfied with the product. It's been in the beginning, when I'm talking in the beginning, in 2017, it was a bit of step in the dark, because not all the features that you have today were available right then. But if you ask me, would I take this step again, or I would say without hesitation, this is one of the products that I would not think twice again to re-implement and to set up again. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to oblige.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Kurt, for this open feedback. I think it's for the people in the call, I think they better understand also the technology than I. So I think it's a very clear picture that we have been bringing to them. I'm trying to see, I think there are already a couple of questions that were sent, so let me see if I can open them and then bring them in the call. Okay, I have here a question which is being sent. So there is also a question, Kurt, about what is the cost optimization reduction did you realize at ZOL? And then there's also a remark on this Citrix probably decommissioned. So that is a question that came in. Can you answer that as well?
Yeah. Well, our first objective was not to cut on costs. Just to be clear about that, we wanted to have less maintenance overhead and more stability and more functionality. But as we implemented the Awingu platform, we were able to completely get away from the Citrix that we had. So it's completely decommissioned, and we noticed that there's been a reduction in licensing cost of almost 60%. So it's been a nice add-on as well. So it's not been the initial focus, but we realized real cost savings as well. So that's a nice takeaway.
Yeah, and Kurt, I remember also you had some. These are the direct cost savings, but I also think you have been looking at some indirect cost savings. So you had less tickets and less requests, and also
that's what I already mentioned. A lot less service desk calls, a lot less maintenance overhead. So it's more difficult to quantify, of course, but it's been significantly less than what we used to have. So those people and those resources can be directed in another part of the organization and can be put to use more efficiently elsewhere. So that's been a real cost saving as well, be it indirectly.
Okay, thanks. I would like to invite other people, if they have a question, please let us know. I must say that it's, if I look at the different challenges, I think Awingu has been able to offer you a very, let's say between brackets, easy solution, which offers also the security. I think a couple of interesting features that you were looking at, like printing was an important one for you, but also the session recording. I think it also helped you in solving that cybersecurity incident that you had.
And another one was getting away with the client dependencies. So now there is no client dependency. When you have a compatible HTML5 browser, you can use the system. So in every modern device has that on board. From a smartphone to a tablet to a laptop, each and every device is able to connect. We even tested it in a Tesla on the dashboard of a Tesla. That worked very well as well.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have some. So the federal police is also a big user of Awingu in Belgium. And some police drones are also, as an example, driving around with Teslas. I think in Zaventem that is the case. And they're also using the browser on the Tesla device in the car, so to access an application which is about 20 years old or something like that. So the only thing the user needs is a browser, and then they can access all the applications and files that you allow them to access. Any other questions, remark? I have another question here. RDS sessions host maintenance / releases versus XenApp MCS / PBS. That's the question.
Well, the nice thing is with the Awingu solution, there isn't any Awingu specific software on the session host, whereas with Citrix you have to install Citrix software on the session host. Here we have a plain RDS web farm, which we patch regularly, standard Windows to standard Microsoft updates, but there is no specific Awingu software apart from the appliances that you put in front of the RDS deployment.
Okay. I have another question coming in. If you think about lessons learned, what would your advice be towards Awingu to improve, and what can be improved in the product in the future? So this isn't about feature requests or extra things to do.
Well, in the beginning when we started in 2017, we still had some questions and some let's say feature requests that we thought were really necessary in our environment. And the good thing is that the folks at Awingu, they have a very slick feature request process, which allowed us to have every feature request that we have had since has been implemented already. So at this time, it's mostly markup and some side phenomena that we would suggest to be taken care of. But the main issues that we've had, or the main questions that we have had in the beginning, have all been resolved by now and have all been incorporated in new features. So the development of the product is really at a rapid pace, and they really take into account the suggestions that we as customers give. So they really put them on the roadmap, and you really see quick results.
Yeah, thank you, because that is in fact what we try to do, and we try to be as lean as possible. So the product is built for, but also by our customers, and we have regularly surveys or individual contact with our end customers to try to understand what we can improve. And as a matter of fact, as Kurt mentioned, if there are features that are asked by multiple end customers, they will be prioritized in the list of the features. And then we have an update every 6 months at least. We have an update of the product, and we try to put those feature requests in the product. So it's a moving target, but we try to be as close as possible to the requests of our customers. So thanks for that as well. I don't know, Mark, any side remark or remark from your side you would like to add?
No, thank you, Kurt, for your very clear explanation. I, from my side, have nothing to add. I think it was very complete. Just so everyone knows, we recorded this session, so we can make sure you receive a link to the recording, so you can always go back to the session and listen to it again, or look up specific parts of it. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay. I have another extra question, Mark. So sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Another question coming in. Are there any printing issues from special apps?
Well, as far as I'm informed, we haven't had any printing issues since we adopted the Awingu, because they use they use PDF feature, so they have the application print and then redirect it to a virtual PDF printer. So what they do actually is install a virtual PDF printer on the RDS on the session host service. You print it to the PDF printer, and that shows up as a PDF pop-up in the browser, and then you can use your own locally connected printer to print the PDF. So it's a very it's a very usable feature. It's a very intuitive feature. So you don't have to explain users how to use it. It's just click and go. Whereas with the Citrix solution, you had to map the specific printers you had the generic, or you had some generic print drivers that you had to install in the XenOp environment, and then the users who connected had some issues. If they had some exotic printers, there was also some difficulty. But now the users really use their local print drivers to print out their stuff. So if they have a locally connected printer or network connected printer on the client, it will work. If they are able to print a PDF, they will be able to use the Awingu print feature, and that's a very nice thing to have.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. For those who might be interested in having a look at other use cases, if you go to the website of awingu.com, we have a specific page on healthcare where you can also see videos and testimonials of hospitals like Bonheiden or AZ Lokeren, also hospitals in the UK. So feel free to have a look over there, or if you have questions, you can always reach out to the team of ProData or directly to the team of Awingu. We are of course, really helpful if there are any specific questions. Thank you for the interesting questions we got from the people in the call. I personally would like to, if there are no questions anymore, thank Mark for organizing and setting this up and inviting Awingu, and very big thank you, Kurt. I know it's a very busy agenda for you. I think you have another webinar on the agenda today, so thank you for freeing up the time to explain how you implemented Awingu in the hospital and being a happy customer, so thanks for that. If there are no questions, maybe Mark, if you would like to close, then we can.
Yes, sure. So thank you everyone, and especially Mr. Gielen, for your time and your very clear exposition on your experiences. So as said before, we will deliver everyone a link with the recording to the session. The link will also include our contact details. So if you would like to discuss opportunities further or use cases further, don't hesitate to contact either Awingu or our sales at ProData, and then we can see how we can help you further. So with that said, I would like to wish everyone a very nice day, and I hope to see you again in the future.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.